Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Pundits. Pundit. My name is Scottmorganroth, the Motor City Madmouth, and we have a different format tonight. We have an author joining us, and his name is Igor Ganapolsky. Igor appeared on The Real and the Rare, and now he has moved over to Pundits Pundit, and at some point down the road, we'll bring him on the Sports Exchange. But right now, Igor, we're glad to have you on the broadcast.
Hello, thank you very much for having me.
You're very welcome. You have a couple of books, but you know what I'm going to be doing tonight, folks? I'm the one who's not going to be asking the questions, but I want you to put those books up so everybody can see them.
Okay. This one, the first one is Boxing Home Workouts for Beginners, and the second one is Powerful Social Skills for Teens. And they're both oriented around combat, martial arts, fitness, but one is for adults and one is for teens.
So why don't you go on the back cover just to kind of give everybody an overview of what those books are all about. And then what I'm going to be doing throughout the night is we go to every crew member that we have here, and they're just going to simply ask you some questions about the books. All right, go ahead.
Absolutely. So this first book, Boxing Home Workouts for Beginners, the premise is that you can achieve knockout fitness in 30 days. And you can unleash your power even if you're a complete beginner. Want to unleash your inner warrior, but don't know where to start? Ready to knock out stress and turbocharge your confidence? Have you encountered boxing as a sport and wanted to use it to get in peak shape and boost your motivation and confidence? Then keep reading. Boxing is one of the best sports in the world for fitness. It has a plethora of workouts that challenge and force you to grow in your power, stamina, agility, cardio, and coordination. And most importantly, it is fun and engaging and extremely practical for self-defense. With so many routines and exercises to choose from, which ones are best for beginners to practice on their own? And that's what Boxing Home Workouts for Beginners will show you. If you want to jumpstart your fitness journey with beginner-friendly boxing workouts that tone your body and boost your stamina, and a fun outlet for your aggression and stress, then this book is for you. See you inside.
There you go. Go ahead.
So that's what the premise of this book is. And I wrote it because I discovered it myself. I've been in martial arts for many years, since I was a teenager. And I discovered boxing late, actually, in my 40s. I wanted to improve just on my punching abilities and other aspects that other martial arts didn't offer me. And I started training here in Florida in Coral Springs. There's a club called ABC Boxing. And what I discovered is that it's a terrific workout. And most people who were going to that boxing gym were not competitors or looking for, even to get into fights or even self-defense scenarios, but they were really just going to get fit. It was a fun outlet for stress. There's a lot of business executives and adults and just, parents that would bring their kids who would compete, and then the parents would work out. What I discovered for myself is that I got in shape in just, less than 30 days. I lost, maybe 15 pounds because I was sweating. You sweat so much in boxing. It's like buckets of sweat coming off of you. And you get in shape in all these aspects, as I mentioned here: cardio, power, stamina, agility, mind-body coordination, confidence. And I decided to write this book because I realized not everybody can go to a gym or pay for a gym well, a lot of people go to regular gyms and lift weights, but that's not very comprehensive, in my opinion. Not as comprehensive as boxing. And a lot of people may be intimidated to go into a boxing gym just to work out. So I wrote this book for people to use at home. Simple exercises they can do that I took away from my boxing training. And so they can get fit in less than 30 days and have fun and have a good outlet for aggression and work out their whole body. So that's how the genesis of this book occurred.
Okay. With that said, I'm going to start with Jacob. Any questions you want to ask Igor?
Got a couple straight up on this one. Number one thing is, you're talking about boxing and all the workouts that you have. Now, one of the things I saw this a few days ago online, and I was studying this deal. They were talking about Alan Alda, the actor. He had Parkinson's. He'd had Parkinson's, so he went into a boxing gym to use his mind with the combinations. For like left, right, everything. It was helping his brain. It slowed his progress. Do you have anything that is like that in the book, like for the older generation that might start something like that?
Well, my book is more targeted for people up to, I guess, age 45. I'm not sure how old this actor is. Although,
No, Alan Alda. This is for allegedly like in his 80s, late 80s or something like that. But that's what he did for Parkinson's. I didn't know if you had that as a thing. That's all.
the truth is these workouts can be done by people in their 80s, although it will be scaled down because I talk about running a certain amount of miles a week and I talk about doing the jump rope. I don't know how capable people in their 80s can do it. And the reason I talk about that is because those are standard warm-up routines to any boxing workout in any gym. So if this particular actor skipped those routines, maybe he was only doing the hand coordination.
Right.
Just for his case, that's a little bit different. But most of the things I talk about in this book can definitely be done by older folks. It's just that it's going to be scaled down to their, I have a chapter on safety and recovery, and I tell people not to push themselves beyond what they're comfortable with. So it would definitely work for older people too.
And that was the second question I was going to ask. Like I have an app that I go to, like I started from absolutely. I just started a couple of days ago, and I just started from complete scratch, with mine. And a lot of it is leg workouts, and it's stuff that would look easy, and you don't have that many, but you feel it. Do you have those type of workouts, like start from scratch, but it's harder than you think?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I break it down. I don't advertise any machines in this book, but I start off with jump rope, then running, then stretching, and I go through different stretches using bands, stretch bands, and then getting into the boxing. So before you even start boxing, I go over different leg workouts and squats and stuff like that, so that you could warm up properly before you start punching the heavy bag.
Right. So is a lot of your workout one more, and that's it. Are a lot of your workouts like heavy bag? Are they different things, or are there any sparring with people or?
No, this particular book is specifically for beginners who maybe have never stepped foot inside of a boxing gym, maybe have no experience in any martial arts or sparring. So that's who I wrote it for. Although if people, want to continue and spar, they can definitely use these workouts. I use them myself at home all the time. But no, there's no sparring mentioned here because this is specifically for beginners. So you have to know what you're doing before you start, sparring with people.
Oh, no question. I mean, I've got martial art. I did 7 years martial arts, got my black belt too. So I love what you're doing, and it's one of those things I like to ask these questions from you, and that I like to hear what you're doing and the idea, because I'm kind of interested in the fitness. So that's just all what I had right now. And I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll turn it over to Denzel. Then after we do Denzel, Candy's going to give some information on the company as well. So just to keep everybody going. Denzel, the floor is yours.
All right, Mr. Igor, nice to meet you. So in the book, of course, you're talking about it's a great way to get in shape and everything, and just a new overall activity to take on. Well, in getting in shape, and especially something as coordinated and also complicated as like boxing can be. And again, I know you're saying you're not getting into sparring or competing or anything like that. This is just the aspect of getting in shape. Does the book touch on, and how much does it talk about instilling confidence? Because whenever some people get in shape, they instill like a bit of confidence within themselves, whether they're running or they're lifting weights or they're boxing. Jacob's a martial artist. If they get into MMA or anything like that, does the book touch on the importance of instilling confidence?
Well, absolutely. And I mentioned that in several parts of the book, that people who follow these workouts will implicitly develop confidence. I mean, there's different levels of confidence. Like you said, there's people who compete and fight and they have a certain different type of confidence, but also people who just work out and run and lift weights, their confidence level is different than the competitors. But I believe that people follow these routines and, stretch and do calisthenics and jump rope and run a certain amount of miles and then hit the heavy bag with the drills that I taught. Physically look better and you lose weight, and you have a better mind-body coordination, you just start feeling more confident in yourself because you let that aggression out. I feel like, if we walk around with stress and aggression we don't let out or have an outlet for, our confidence can diminish. And that's what I experienced when I started doing boxing, is that I'm not a professional competitor. I was amateur, but my confidence just went up so much just by working out and going to a boxing club and doing all these routines. So,
Okay. Sweet. That's all I had. Scott.
Is that all right? Well, Candy, why don't you go ahead and give the company information, and then after you're doing that, Candy, I'll let you go ahead and ask Igor a few questions.
So if you're watching us and you see a little red subscribe button down, it's kind of by where Denzel is. If you see that red, that means you haven't subscribed to us. And I don't know why you haven't, but you need to hit that red subscribe button. You need to watch our programming. We have program. We start on Monday night with baseball. We do Tuesday night. We do Inside the Pigskin. So football all over. Wednesday night is sports exchange. You never know what we might be talking about. Anything from cornhole to football to baseball to hockey. You never know. You got to come watch us. And then Thursday nights obviously is Pundits Pundit. And we do a show called Fire Up after that. Then Scott has a show, Motor City Madmouth, which is normally a show where he interviews one-on-one. Oh, we have No Limits. We have Fire Up Michigan, Fire Up Florida, Fire Up Wisconsin, Professor and Pupil. We have all kinds of shows. Just come watch. You never know what you might find. Scott went to Miami Hurricanes Pro Day this week, and he interviewed one of the players, Xavier Restrepo. You'll find that on our YouTube channel. But the audio version, if you like listening to podcasts, you can find us on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. But most importantly, Scott wrote this book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is available on Amazon. Oh, look what Denzel's got. He's got a copy himself. Look at this, guys.
I have the power.
Same.
It's available on Amazon, Kindle, and Barnes & Noble. Get your copy today. Okay, Scott. Oh, then back to my questions now.
Now back to Candy. Go ahead.
Not back to me. So, Igor, you talk about boxing, and I'm a little older school, let's face it. Boxing used to be very much a man's sport or a guy's sport. And only until more recently are more women getting into it. Is your book written for women per se?
oh, absolutely. And in some of the illustrations in the book, I have women. And in fact, on the cover, I have a woman. You know, if you could see that she has long hair. So the book definitely is written for both men and women. And the reason is that I discovered about 40% of the people in that boxing gym were female. Now, most of them were not competitors, maybe a few were, but there was quite a lot of women just coming to use boxing as a workout to get in shape because for them it was more fun than going to the gym or lifting weights or anything like that. And in my opinion, also, I think women enjoy like the group setting, and you definitely get that in a boxing gym as opposed to like a regular gym, you're by yourself mostly. So definitely it could be used by women, and there's no reason why these beginners workouts can't work for women.
Well, my one comment is if Scott and I read the book together and we start a boxing match between the two of us, I wonder who's going to win.
You.
Why, you want me to really answer that? At this stage, the way I'm all busted up with 29 surgeries, I would definitely be betting money on you because I'm what you call the old geezer that's past his prime. You know, if I'm not at home, I'm in the hospital. If I'm not in the hospital, I'm on the road cutting people off because I'm the interstate intimidator and king of the road. Okay, and no, there's no Mountain Dew tonight. So for all you people that wonder, I cut that off. So Candy, I would give you the edge. And you know what? I don't have a big enough ego where it would matter anyways.
So I do have a question, Igor. A lot of like seniors, I mean, you said that the book is normally more based towards younger in the 40s and stuff like that. But a lot of seniors are prone to like falling. And so you talk about some of the different skills in this book. Would it be very beneficial for seniors to start working on it? Because wouldn't it help with their hand-eye coordination and the fact that they are more prone to fall, that maybe they'd learn how to fall better or be more, in fit?
I think it would. And as I mentioned before, in response to Jacob's question, some of these exercises will need to be scaled down for seniors. So, for example, they're not going to be running at full speed for 3 miles. But I do mention in the book that if somebody can't run or is not at that level yet, just walk as fast as you can or walk at your own pace. And that would work too. Just walk for 1 mile, 2 miles, as much as you can. And that's one of the warm-ups is, I don't know if seniors can jump rope, but they could definitely walk. At least most of them can. And so they could do that. And as far as, like I said, there's no sparring in this book, but there's a lot of drills for punching the heavy bag. And there's no reason why senior can't put on gloves and just hit the bag at their own level. They don't have to be Mike Tyson, but they could definitely hit it as hard as they can, and they'll feel the benefits of it.
So in this book, about how long would you say on a daily basis people need to be doing these exercises or the boxing on a regular basis to stay in fit and to get in shape?
Well, my recommendation I made in this book is an hour a day. Now, of course, that is predicated on how much time you really have. But our workouts in the boxing studio that I was going to, they were an hour-long class. So that's kind of where I came up with that number. And myself, like I said, in just 30 days, I lost like 15 pounds. And because I was going like 4 nights a week, sometimes 5. And I think 1 hour is the magic number to shoot for.
And would you say that an hour? So I understand, because like some of us don't have an hour, and I get that. But some people say some days you should be doing like weights, and some days you should be doing more agility and like distance running and stuff like that. In your book, does it address like what days you should be doing certain things, or?
No, and that's what makes boxing unique, and that's why I like it better than other types of workout, even better than other martial arts I've used, for fitness levels, because it's all coherent. Like you can't do boxing without, doing any kind of cardio warm up. Like there's always a jump rope warm up, at least 9 minutes at every boxing class, regardless if you're sparring or just getting fit. There's always jumping on a jump rope exercises. Sometimes we go outside and jog. That depends if you're on a competition team or not. Then there's calisthenics, push-ups, sit-ups, squats. So I've never seen a boxing workouts to skip any of those. And that's why I like it, because it's consistent. Every time you go to boxing to work out or to compete or to spar, you know exactly what you're going to do, in which order mostly, and what to expect. And I think it's also good for the mind, is like to not overcomplicate things and not try to predict which day you do what. You just keep it consistent. So.
One more question, at least for right now. Some people, when they're working out, they like to listen to particular music. Does the book at all have any of like that you should be listening to music or not listening to music, or?
Music is great. Personally, I turn on music like in my garage when I do these workouts. I have music playing, but that's because I'm by myself. Now, when people are sparring, they're not listening to music on their headphones, but there's always music playing. In the boxing gym, there was always music playing on the speakers, and sometimes it would be hip hop, sometimes it'd be like Latin music. Depends who's teaching the class. Sometimes it'd be rock, like old school rock music. So no, definitely music is great, because it also helps the mind catch the rhythm. So boxing has a lot of rhythm. Everything you're doing has a timing and a rhythm to it. So as you're working out, music keeps you like motivated to stay on a certain timing or rhythm, as opposed to if there was no music playing and everybody would be kind of like doing their own thing at their own speed. So definitely music is great. I just don't know if listening to it in your headphones is a good idea if you're around somebody else, but having it on a speaker is good.
So how long did it take you to write the book?
This book actually took me less than a month. It's a short content book. It's got 5,000 words. I wanted to keep it simple. It's for beginners. This is not for professional boxers. It's not even for competitive boxers. Just for beginners to do exercise in their home and use boxing as a way to get fit. So less than a month. And like I said, I work in the IT industry and software. So I used, a lot of AI to help me organize and the chapters and to write an outline. So that was kind of my assistant for that.
Okay, well, I'm going to pass the torch to George so I don't take up too many of the questions. So I allow him some questions. George.
Thank you. Igor, Detroit has been synonymous with boxing for many, many decades. The Brown Bomber, Joe Louis, Sugar Ray Robinson, Muhammad Ali even trained out in the western part of the state. Thomas Hearns, Hilmore Kenty, Milt McCrory, the list goes on and on and on. Of course, the great trainer himself, Emanuel Stewart. And I know I'm talking about a certain class here of excellence. And then we had Clarissa Shields and Muhammad Ali's daughter for a while. So I think what I've seen is boxing has become more and more popular, and through the likes of the champions that have kind of gone through a career in boxing. Okay, and I know that's probably not something that's in your book, but it dawns on me that obviously at any age, I mean, it's a great sport to watch and great sport to participate in. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And, I saw the change in the young people in the studio where I was training, the teenagers who were actually competing or they were amateurs and they wanted to one day become professionals. It was really a good hobby for them, and it kept them out of trouble. And it was like a group activity, and they would go watch the fights together and they would discuss the fights together. So I think especially for the younger generation, it's really a good example. It instills discipline and courage and confidence, most importantly.
Yeah, and I know that your book emphasizes more of the seniors to get in shape, but I will tell you this, that I've seen many more programs starting in metropolitan Detroit that involves the children and trying to get funds to help the children also get enrolled and involved in the boxing sport and exercise, like you mentioned. So in Detroit, for example, I mean, we've got a legacy to carry on and to get the kids, especially a lot of kids that are in the inner city. They may not have the opportunities like some of the suburban kids do to pick which sport to play, for example. But I've noticed in Detroit, especially, and I'm sure it happens in other major areas too, that programs are becoming more common, for the youngsters to take up the sport and good exercise for them as well.
That's great to hear, George. And I do wish more cities encourage that for youngsters. I know they have police athletic leagues, PAL leagues here in Florida, and I've gone to a couple of their matches last year to watch some of their amateur competitions, and they had starting from kids level all the way up to adults. But I do wish that more cities would encourage or open up clubs for kids to do.
And we can't forget, of course, the the Rocky series. I mean, we may laugh at some of the scenes as being kind of contrived or phony and all that, but my goodness, I mean, with Sylvester Stallone and Carl Weathers and Burgess Meredith, all these great actors, and Talia Shire, it was just a great series of, that people could connect to, because here's an underdog. Here's a guy that never thought he would have a chance at becoming good at boxing. And I just remember how excited I was as a young person, to go and see as episode after episode. As we know, Sly made many, many remakes and continuous parts of that movie and that series. Did you connect with that as well? I'm just curious, Igor. Were you one of them that really loved that the Rocky series?
I did, especially the earlier ones. It was funny because I was born in the former Soviet Union. In one of the Rockies, he fought Drago. He was a Russian Soviet fighter. But I'm more sided with Rocky. I wasn't really rooting for Drago in that movie. But it was interesting how that was like the enemy, the Soviet enemy.
Let me go to the chat room real quick. Blake Lozinski,
Sure.
What's going on? We're going on. Florida Panthers down 1-0.
Yep.
Yes, they are the local team in town. 2 good fights, but they don't have anything to do with the book. But since we're talking about fighting,
Good fights.
let's bring in
2
these
good
2
fights. Igor wasn't involved in any of them.
Right, no, he
Yeah.
wasn't. But you know what, Blake? I'm glad you brought that up. Two good fights. We're talking about boxing thing. I talk to Blake all the time. You want to talk about one of the nicest, candid characters I've ever seen. Blake is it. I like this guy. All right, continue on. You got any more questions, George?
No, I'm all set for now, Scott.
All right, well, let's go ahead and talk about the second book Igor's written, Powerful Social Skills for Teens.
Right.
So let's go ahead to the back cover after you're done showing the front cover and give everybody an overview on that. And then we'll do exactly what we did before and duplicate it. We'll go around the horn and everybody can ask some questions.
Okay, so the premise of this book is become the most likable person in the room, elevate your social skills without changing who you are. And the questions are, do you dread the awkward silence that follows, hey, how are you? Or are you fed up with swiping through social media and jealous of friends hanging out without you? Or ever stumbled through a date wishing the earth would swallow you whole? Don't worry, you're not alone. There's a myth that social skills are only for extroverts. The fact is, imagine mastering the room's energy whether you're an introvert or extrovert. This book decodes the secrets to social success for every personality type. Another myth is you need a large group of friends to be socially successful. And the fact is, ever dreamed of having a tight-knit circle that's more quality than quantity? Discover how you could build meaningful friendships that elevate you, not drain you. Next myth is social skills can't be practiced or improved. And the fact is, they can be practiced or improved. Imagine wielding a toolkit of proven strategies that make every social interaction a win. With the right guidance, social skills are as learnable as riding a bike or cooking a meal. Each of these myths is a common misconception that can hold teens back from achieving social success. And debunking them vividly illustrates how powerful social skills for teens offer a game-changing approach.
Okay. Well, now that everybody has an overview, I'm going to start off with Denzel this time.
All right. So, now this book right here, in touching with social skills for teens and everything, and how important do you think this is? That this pertains. Now, is this book layered? Like it's kind of like, and how do I put this? Because someone at 14 may not have the same, issues as someone at 17. Are there things in the book that are more well-rounded? Because if you take somebody at 14 and they may have an issue or two, but then, by the time they get 17, it may be a bigger issue, even though they may have conquered that one. Are there things in the book? Are there tools in the book that carry them through teenhood from 13 to 18, 19, or whichever, or is it more like structured, like, okay, this chapter may be for like 13, 14-year-olds and, middle schoolers. And this chapter here is for freshmen and sophomore in high school. Like, how is the book, I guess, kind of structured?
That's a good question. No, it's comprehensive. It doesn't actually divide between ages. Teens officially are classified as 13 to 19.
Yeah.
That's how I'm targeting in this book. And it doesn't make a distinction because all of these skills can be practiced by any teen, no matter what age they are. In fact, the earlier they start, the better. So teens these days are all in social media, and a lot of them are a little awkward. They don't interact in person. They're on their phones a lot. So I address all of these things, and I throw in the martial arts and the boxing suggestions in here too, in every chapter. But it doesn't distinguish between different ages.
Okay, so it actually has a bit of an old school approach to it. Like, we a lot of us on this panel, we came up where if we wanted to know where our friends were, we didn't push a button on our phone or anything. I could walk outside and I can walk down the street, and where everyone's bicycles were, I knew everyone was at that house, and we'd go in there and knock on the door, and then, hey, let's go play some ball, or we'll go in the house and play a video game or something like that, So this has more of an old school approach to it, to where, I don't know, if North Korea took us out with an EMP today, these same skills would still get people by even without electronics.
No, absolutely. And Denzel, I like that you bring that up. I also remember growing up like that, where people would just go outside and knock on people's doors and stay out late. It's not really the case in a lot of places anymore. Teens, they text each other, then go on social media. But these skills, if North Korea attacked us, they would still work because I emphasize several things. I emphasize, first of all, how to pay attention better to people, to get out of your head or get off your phone and just pay attention to whoever you're talking to.
Right.
And secondly, I encourage teens to get into, if they have a wrestling team at school, get on that. If they have, after school option to go take kickboxing or boxing or jiu-jitsu or anything like that, I encourage them to bring their friends along, and make that a friend activity, group activity. So I think this would apply in any age. I mean, any time in history.
And last question, and then I can Blake's asking, are your books available on Amazon?
Yes, both books are on Amazon, correct.
And then the last thing I wanted to ask was, does your book actually touch on team building as well? That can be a little, like difficult with teenagers because, like kids can be cruel, right? Like we all were in high school once and middle school, so we know. I think it's actually the more crucial with them because, as adults, you can kind of explain better that like, hey, here's a common goal, here's a mission, here's how we got to get it done, this is why we got to come together as a team. But with that teenager, you got to take them away from the distractions. You got to kind of, say, hey, you got to exercise a little bit of couth here, and exercise a little bit of moral understanding. People make mistakes. It's about helping them, bring them out of it. Does the book also touch on team building?
Absolutely. And this is why I encourage so much, the martial arts aspects in this book, because I myself, when I was a teen, I was doing martial arts and I made a lot of friends that way. And that was my big social scene, like at Taekwondo. That's what I used to do when I was a teen. And I didn't go to like a really great high school growing up in New York, but going to the martial arts school after school was a great place to, to feel like you're part of a team. And so I believe that even though martial arts can be competitive, you might think that, you're putting teens against each other, compete. I actually make it a point in this book to tell them they could challenge each other and they could, compliment each other, reward each other. And anytime someone then reaches a higher belt or wins a competition or something. So I think it's, I do touch on the team building activities. In addition to martial arts, I also talk about, for example, like in the topic of dating, that's a funny topic, but that's always difficult for teens. But I also encourage them, like, get with your friends and do like role playing scenarios. Like, if a boy is nervous about asking a girl out, well, just like play it out with your friend and just rehearse different lines you could use. So use that as a team building activity. So I encourage stuff like that throughout the book.
Sweet. Hey, that's all I had, Scott. Thanks, man.
All right, I'll turn it over to George Eichhorn. Go ahead, George.
Yeah, as you know, Igor, there's so much bullying going on now with the kids and the teens, especially. Situations have come up that are very, very serious, and unfortunately, some result in taking somebody's life and or committing suicide, and terrible, terrible things have happened to a lot of the teens from today. Is there any particular area that you think that, again, we can't snap our fingers and get rid of all these things? It's just not going to happen. But if you have a young person or in your family or growing up in your community, what kind of things do you think they should be like involved in, and maybe to stay away from those negative type things if you're in that age group?
Well, that's a good question, George. And I address two types of bullying in this book. One is the physical bullying, another one is cyberbullying. And these days, of course, cyberbullying is a prevalent issue with kids being on social media all the time, and they're being harassed and this and that. So with physical bullying, like I mentioned, I definitely encourage kids to get into martial arts, or like if they have a wrestling team in their school, or now you said maybe some schools have boxing opportunities. Definitely join that, because in my experience, that was the best way for me to like feel confident, against kids who were up to no good, in my neighborhood, and they're just bad actors. And so that was my way out. And also the kids I knew who also followed the same path, that was their way out. And that's how they combated bullying. So I definitely encourage teens to get into any kind of after school martial arts program. That's both boys and girls. It's not just for boys. As far as cyberbullying, I tell kids to limit their time online. And the more they'll get out and play sports or do any kind of martial arts, the less time they'll be online. because the more time they spend online, they'll be subject to not just bullying from their peers, but also there's, a lot of pretenders online. There's a lot of just bad actors who want to pretend like they're a teenager and they want to follow and stalk, younger people. So I just encourage them to just get off, social media as much as possible and get out and do physical activity. So those would be my solutions.
Mm-hmm. And as a follow-up, you mentioned about organized sports. I mean, are any of the particular sports more critical or more important, do you think, to teens as opposed to others? I mean, let's face it. I mean, there's the big four. Obviously, have people thinking that their kid might make it someday. Big league football. I'm talking about baseball, hockey, basketball, but in general, I mean, are organized sports to help build their character, build their self-confidence. Does that go across the line of any sport, tennis, swimming, no matter what it is?
I believe definitely there's no discrimination. Any sport is great. It's just that I make a clear distinction. There's combat sports, and then there's just like regular sports, maybe like basketball or baseball. Combat sports would be like wrestling, high school wrestling, or boxing. Those would be combat sports. And then martial arts would be like jiu-jitsu and karate or kickboxing. So all sports are great. I encourage kids to get into any sport they can, but I address martial arts because that was what I took when I was a teen, even though I played basketball in high school. But for me, I think martial arts was great. Like on the topic of bullying, that was the most effective thing is, especially for girls, I think, because if they're in a softball team, for example, you won't necessarily teach them skills to defend themselves when they need to, right? Even though it'll build their confidence and self-esteem, it's great. I really believe that getting to some form of martial art is the only way they could, really defend themselves and feel like they could ward off any kind of bullies.
Okay, thank you. Scott?
All set, George? Yeah, we'll turn it over to Jacob if you're done. Jacob, go ahead.
As somebody I've been a tutor, mentor, basketball coach. I've been everything but a classroom, which I feel like I still do. One of the things I usually tell young men, mostly young men, because where I work is a lot of them, but it goes to young women also. A lot of things I tell them is that anyone that has a good communication skills, great communication skills, they're the one. Especially now with this, with the artificial communication world. Yeah, if anybody's got communication world eye to eye, I believe is going to make all the money. In the next few, because it's like they're the ones that are going to get hired. They're the ones that are going to get everything they got. I mean, I've tried to bring that to them. And I was like, do you have any specific thing in your book that talks about, having the confidence just to speak, without without text, without texting, without everything like that, eye to eye to everyone. Basically, not everyone. I mean, people are not strangers. You can speak to anyone.
Absolutely. I have a chapter or two on that. The first step is learning how to pay attention. Just like we're doing now, we're talking and we're paying attention to each other. And the first step, and I go through some of these steps in the book, is I tell kids to pay attention to who you're talking to, who's in the room with you, and when you are talking to them, do make eye contact. Doesn't mean you have to stare, but make sure you're looking at them when they're speaking, and when you're speaking to them, you look at them, and that helps to be more assertive too, because it's one thing to say something online on social media, and blurt out anything you want, but it's another thing to be assertive and speak honestly when you're looking at somebody. So I have a chapter or two on those, and I have techniques that I worked on this book together with a clinical social worker, actually, and he works professionally with teenagers. So he designed a lot of these cognitive, behavioral exercises that teens can follow for, interpersonal communication. But back to your question, Jacob, the next step after, paying attention, I do talk about how to ask good questions. So not necessarily waiting for somebody to start talking to you in the room, at a party when you're awkward, like learn how to break the ice. And I give some suggestions and some simple stuff you could do, like give a genuine compliment to somebody, like, hey, nice shoes, nice shirt or something, or congratulations on passing that test at school or something like that. So I definitely go through a lot of those, interpersonal skills in this book.
Oh, okay, good. And another thing that Another thing that I bring about with this when I talk to everyone is I've also been a trained actor, and there's always a skill, where you basically you go look eye to eye, repeat back and forth like your shirt is blue, that sort of deal. That kind of thing to get people to get people there as far as the skill. So what you were bringing up, it can be almost like boxing. But another thing also is, do you have anything in the book about communicating? Like, remember, you said 13 and 19-year-olds, so like on jobs, because like you will go, for instance, to a Chick-fil-A, and every kid hired there, every single one, is how may I help you? It's my pleasure. That sort of deal. Yes, I want to be a physicist. I want to be a cartoonist. They all have a skill. But when I go to a McDonald's, the minute I see any kid look at me, say hi, hi, and here you go, and my pleasure, have a great day. The first one, I believe, is going to be owning the McDonald's. And I was just wondering, do you have anything based off of jobs and speaking with customer, or speaking with people in life and adults in general?
Not specifically for jobs, but these skills that I teach in this book do carry over to jobs. And I do mention, like in the closing chapter, that if they practice these exercises, and I have specific exercises for them to practice by themselves and with each other, this will carry over into their future when they go into college, into the workforce. So I specifically tell them that they're learning these skills not just for high school or just for the teenage years. It's definitely going to carry over for the rest of their life. But just the basics of paying attention and addressing somebody by their name, having a strong handshake is important for a man, of course, for a male. Those things are they're not going to go away when they grow up. So if they master them as teens, it's definitely going to carry over to the career. Maybe they'll own the McDonald's, like you said. So
or things, sports. It's like, and I get this because I had to say this to myself. I had an older father, and I got all of it. Like, say I'm straight, I'm like, man, I'm 6, and I'm 6 when he's starting me with the stand up straight kind of thing. And I'm like, and you didn't hug him the night you get handshakes. I mean, I got all the training, but I have to remember a lot of these seniors don't have that training. So I appreciate a book like this.
Thank you. Yes.
That's what I have. That's my questions.
Okay. Well, you know what? Andy will wrap it up, and then I'll have a couple things to add as we get ready to wrap this broadcast up. Go ahead, Candy.
So, Igor, I have a couple questions. One is, these days, mental health is such an importance that we're becoming more aware of mental health and issues. And we see kids not knowing how to deal with emotions, I guess, and you see like the shooting in Parkland. I mean, Nicholas Cruz, they're saying he's had issues ever since he was young, and he's been tossed from one, family and stuff like that. And do you address, I guess part of it is being comfortable in your own skin, and like being, do you talk about kids how to be comfortable in their own skin and stuff like that? Do you address that in the book?
Yes, absolutely. And I start off, in the early chapters telling them that it's normal for them to go through a change when they become teenagers. They're going to be growing rapidly. Their tastes and views of the world are going to be changing very rapidly. They're going to feel a lot of peer pressure. So I have exercises for them to write down, what they're feeling and how to address that and categorize that in their head, so they don't think there's something wrong with them. Because I think that's where a lot of problems come from, is that teens believe that there's something's wrong with them. They're not like the others, and then they bottle it up inside. So I definitely address how to not hold difficult emotions, and tell them it's normal. I have exercises in there for them to journal. But also I encourage them, if they're having a difficult time, to talk to somebody, whether it's a school counselor, or it doesn't have to be their parents, but it could be somebody in their family, somebody older who can give them perspective. So I encourage them not to hold it in. and feel like they're all by themselves. And I tell them everybody's going through that. Every teenager goes through change. Some, have their own flavor of it, but just don't feel like there's something wrong with you or you're weird. So I have exercises for them to tackle that.
I was going to say one of the problems that we have seen in society as a whole, as well, is obesity, and overeating and eating the wrong foods and all of that kind of thing. Do you address some of the eating part of it, especially for young teens, as opposed to just the exercising part?
I don't get much into the eating because it's not my area of expertise. Although I believe in healthy eating myself, definitely. But see, I believe that when they do get into something like sports, after school activities, whether they're just playing regular sports or a combat sport like wrestling or boxing or doing jiu-jitsu, I believe they'll be encouraged to eat more properly, because you can't progress in those types of activities if you're overweight, if you're just not going to keep up with your peers, basically. And I've seen, like, for example, in my boxing gym, some teens, they come and, maybe 14, 15 years old, they look awkward, maybe they're a little overweight, but then just after a few months, they lose a ton of weight and they're so more agile and moving because they're keeping up with their peers. If they want to stay in the ring and they want to survive and, do well, they're going to have to, stay off the soda a little bit and eat more healthy. So I think implicitly, if they join these activities, they will eat more healthy. It's just that I don't specify any type of advice for eating in this book.
Okay, so the two-part question. What inspired you to write this book, and what's your next book going to be about?
Well, that's a good question. What inspired me is that, well, the topic of personal development and social skills has always been an interest to me for many, many years. Like for the last 20 years, I mean, I've been in delving deep into that topic and reading hundreds and hundreds of books and attending workshops and seminars. So I can't say I'm perfect as an adult in those areas, but it's definitely helped me. But I do remember as a teen, the big thing that got me through and kept me confident and kept me going and gave me success was, the martial arts training that I had after school. And also, like I said, I played basketball in high school. Those are my favorite activities, like much more than doing homework or, trying to be the best student. Like the sports and the martial arts were my favorite thing. And that's why I wanted to write this book. I think now is a good time. It's an important time because, like Denzel said, we remember as kids, as teens, going outside and finding people's bicycles by somebody's house. Well, those times might be gone in many neighborhoods. And that's why I wanted to encourage teens to be healthy and take care of themselves through physical activities and get off the computer and get off social media and not be weird. So that's what inspired me, is kind of maybe just giving back to the teen community, because I don't know, if I was a teen these days, I don't know how I would survive without a book like this, without any kind of advice like this. It could be a very confusing world. So that's why I wrote this book. And my next book, it's going to be in a similar topic. I already kind of finished the manuscript. It's called Self-Esteem Workbook for Adults. So it's a similar topic, but it's just more for adults. So it's also designed by cognitive behavioral therapists, professional exercises there that adults can do to challenge the limiting beliefs and negative thinking and to turn that into, positive attitudes, because that's been a topic of interest for me for many years. And it's gotten me through some difficult times. And so that's going to be my next book.
Sweet.
That's awesome. Awesome. I look forward to reading all of these, actually. And I know Scott has a copy of a couple of them, so I have to start reading up on those. One last question. Besides Amazon, are there other places you have the book out there, and where can we find them?
Yes, I actually just published the audiobook version of Powerful Social Skills for Teens. I published it on Google Play Audio. So it's not on Audible, which would be Amazon. It's on Google Play Audio. You could find that if you just go into Google Books, whether you have an iPhone or an Android or on your computer. Amazon is very picky with their audiobooks. And like I said, I try to use software and AI to help me generate the audio. And Amazon didn't like it. So, but Google had no problem accepting it. So for now, it's just Amazon and Google, but I also applied on Apple to also submit my audiobook on iTunes. So I'm waiting for them to approve me.
Okay, I think that's all I have, Scott.
All right. Great job, everybody. Well done. Love the questions. Enjoy hearing them and all that. All right, a couple of quick ones of my own here. First of all, Igor, why should people buy both books?
Because they're very unique. The first book, The Boxing Workouts for Beginners, I haven't seen anything like it on Amazon to encourage people to work out at home, specifically with boxing routines. I've seen a lot of boxing books on Amazon for professionals and competitors, written by professionals. Or I've seen books on just stretching or yoga and stuff. But this book is very unique. I don't think there's anything like it. And like I said, if people buy this book and train the way I advise, I think within 30 days, I'm very confident they could still see, significant weight loss and a lot of more power and confidence in their body. The second book is also very unique because, again, I've also seen a lot of books on Amazon for teenagers and social skills for teens, but none of them address, using martial arts or combat sports to boost their self-esteem and their social skills. I think most books, they talk about, being nice and fitting in and how to talk to people, which is very important. But I haven't seen anything like to develop like the warrior spirit, the confidence that teens, I think, really need these days to, be self-sufficient and to speak up for themselves. And so the answer to your question, Scott, is I think they're unique. I don't think there's anything like it. And both of these books address martial arts. How a person can use these for self-help without having to rely on anybody else, just by following the material in this book that they can see change in their life.
Well, I think that both of these books also address as the one underrated thing is psychology. And when we talk about books or anything you do, psychology plays a large role in anything that you do. And I have a feeling that both of these books address that. All right. So as we talk about closing thoughts here, and this is something that I thought about. So what should people in our audience take away from this broadcast? Because we've been going at it about 52 minutes, and there's been great questions, a lot of information, but they're watching and they may be watching again if they don't get it the first time. So with that said, what should they take away from this show, Igor?
So what they should take away is if they want to improve themselves, whether it's fitness or whether it's a teenager struggling with social skills or struggling to make friends or to fit in, there's help out there just by getting good content like these books. Just starting with these books could be a good starter for them. And of course, they could seek professional help and guidance and mentorship. I encourage that. But this is a unique time we live in where we have so much, information and material out there. And if teenagers or adults find the right information material that they want to improve themselves, they can, just by getting the right books. And that's the message I want to give, that you could start at home by yourself, wherever you are. If you want to get more fit, or if you want to improve your social skills, if you want to become more confident, you don't have to necessarily join a gym, or you don't have to, pay a personal trainer or go see a counselor. You could really do a lot of this by yourself, just by following good material.
Hey, we're very happy to have you here on Pundits Pundit. With that said, as we wrap up the show, I should also point out, like Candy mentioned earlier, Fire Up follows us, and Candy will be hosting that show. Denzel Snipes, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
Denzel Sniper 13 on Twitch, Denzel Snipes 13 on YouTube, Denzel Snipes on Facebook as well. So be sure and hit that like and follow and subscribe for my YouTube and also my Twitch, and also the Gauntlet tomorrow night. We will be talking about the Justin Fields trade. Tune in. It's going to be on Sideline Sports, also on follow James Tatum 12 on YouTube.
Okay, Jacob Crispin, you're next.
And Denzel trying to get the gray hairs on the beard to catch up in me. But I noticed that right there. Yes, I am Jake the Pundit on the X or Twitter. Jake the Pundit on the Jake the Pundit 1 on TikTok. Jacob Christner on Facebook. Also write for the South Florida Tribune and the and Sideline Sports and a few other things along the way. Plus 4 or 5 shows a week.
want to thank Jacob Christner for the incredible job that he does sharing our content on Twitter/X. It's greatly appreciated. Okay, Jacob. All right, George Eichhorn, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, you can follow me on the South Florida Tribune. I write under the Motor City Tribune website, covering a lot of sports here in Detroit and in Michigan as a general rule. You can reach me at gicorn@yahoo.com, on LinkedIn under my name, and then also on Twitter with SandGSports99 is my handle. Follow me on inside the well, once in a while, I guess, but mostly on 108 Stitches, the Sports Exchange, Pundits, and other great shows here, fire up shows, etc. As part of the team here at the South Florida Tribune. And also you can get a copy of my book. It's also available at Amazon. It's called Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. Good to be with you again tonight.
So we have 4 books on this very broadcast. My goodness. All right. Candy, why don't you take us home talking about our stuff and everything and what you have planned for your show afterwards if you have that ready. But let's take it home, Candy. You've done a remarkable job. And by the way, just to let everybody know that this Candy will be a regular on Pundits. So I'm very proud that she's been able to expand herself, and we are able to get a different perspective when she comes on. She's unbelievable. All right, Candy, take us home.
Okay, again, well, now Jacob's in that corner. If you see that red subscribe button, hit it. Like us, share us with everybody. But also go to all of our contributors and like and share their content as well, because they're giving us their time. So please hit them up too and go out. Igor told us about 2 great books. If you can't use them, I bet you know at least 1 or 2 people that could use it. So go out and buy his books as well. Buy George's book. Then Scott wrote a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Turning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. He talks about media and how it's changed over the course of his career over 40 plus years. It has a picture, and you got to go in and see it. There's a picture of him, a young Scott, with Muhammad Ali. You got to get it to see it. But also, if you like to listen to podcasts, listen to our podcast, South Florida Tribune. We have all kinds of, like I said before, we have all kinds of shows out there. If you like football, if you like baseball, if you like just sports, if you like one-on-one interviews, definitely listen to us. But we also have a website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Scott writes, Jacob writes, George writes. I take pictures. Go see our pictures. Go see our website. If you have ideas, you can always email us, southfloridatribune@gmail.com. You can always, if you want to be a guest, one of the things we're going to start doing on Fire Up on Thursday nights, if you're commenting on our shows during the week, you might find yourself as a special guest on Thursday nights on Fire Up. Fire Up follows us tonight. We are going to be talking March Madness. And there's a segment that I have introduced into all my shows. It's called My Town, where the people who are on can talk about a topic from their town, whether it be sports related or not. But you'll have to catch us at 9:15, 9:30 and see what we're going to talk about tonight besides March Madness. Scott, I think I got him.
You definitely got him. All right, Igor, I want to thank you very much for joining us here on Pundits Pundit. So on behalf of George Eichhorn, Candy Ebling, Igor Ganapolsky, okay, I know that was a good name. Denzel Snipes a lot easier, and Jacob Chris was even easier. My name is Scottmorganroth, the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Pundits Pundit. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Igor and I have a lot to offer, as is George Eichhorn. So feel free to go out there and get each and every one of those books. I can guarantee you one thing: each of these books will make you a lot smarter. So meanwhile, for those that tuned in tonight, you're smart because it's a good show to turn into. My modest, yeah, and I don't even care. So it is what it is. So everybody have a good weekend, and Fire Up is next with Candy Ebling. Good night, everybody. And once again, thank you very much for joining us, Igor.
Thank you.
Thanks, Igor.
Thanks, Igor.
Thank you.